But I view this as a sort of a first of many events hosted by 400 Black Dollars. What I'd like to do is talk about different subjects, different topics, get multiple people involved. If you can answer the question, answer it. If you don't feel comfortable answering the question, don't answer it. If Garrison, Stephanie, you guys want to ask questions, you can ask questions. As we start going, what I'd like to do is maybe do one of these like every other week. And obviously start getting some topics that are relevant to current stuff, and then some topics that are more about things that have happened within the Black community, what can be done to improve the situation in the Black community, and a bunch of other things that we can discuss. I know Ed is obviously one of the voracious readers that we have, as you can tell from the books behind him. But just try and get obviously some honest viewpoints from people about what they think or what you guys think, and what we can do to start improving some stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to post these on the website. I'm going to blast them obviously over YouTube and several different places, and just try and build up more traffic to the website. So as we really start pushing 400 Black Dollars, we begin to get a following, and not just become this thing that starts up and goes away. So that being said, it seems like some of you guys have your phones on mute or your mics on mute. Whether you have it on mute or not is probably okay for now. If we had a lot more people, then I would probably say everybody put your stuff on mute. With it being now, what I'll do is I'll just go around the room and I'll ask a question. As I ask the question, then you can answer the question, be as honest as possible. But before you answer it the first time, then what I want to do is make sure you guys introduce yourself, say who you are. Obviously, everybody is somewhat affiliated with 400 Black Dollars, but just say who you are, and then you can answer the question. If you want to give more background information, you can do that as well. That's entirely up to you. But at least for the initial, make sure you introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there. Anybody have any questions to start? No?
It's
All
on
right.
you.
So the first question I wanted to ask, which is actually a doozy, and I think we might spend a lot of time on this, but I wanted to get when I talk to people and they talk about Trump, and I was just speaking with someone last week, they were telling me how Trump has gotten more Black people to be interested in following him, and more supporters. And I tried to explain to the individual that that simply was not true. And what I'd like to do is start with the question of, what do you think about Trump? So that people, obviously, we're somewhat of all the same background. We all have some of the same feelings towards whether it's politics or what's happening in the world. But what I'd like to start is, hey, give me your honest opinion. And if we can keep our answers down to about a minute, of what you think about Trump. Abubak, you in the upper left, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with you.
All right. What do I think about Trump? I think he manifests the ill that is wrong with the United States. And what I mean by that is, I don't believe he should have, according to how the United States is supposed to be, I don't think he should have ever been allowed to even become a Republican nominee, let alone president of the United States. And how that all came about is the ills of the United States, that it could work with the Electoral College that would allow him to come into being. He displays the ugly American, everything that is ill about what we've seen, because a lot of us have been military. When you go overseas, and sometimes you'll hear from foreigners, hey, you got this ugly American. He's the epitome of that. And I think he needs to be voted out. He should have never gotten in. And you mentioned before how it appears to be that a lot of Black people are coming around to support him. I think that's exaggerated. And if anything, a lot of that is fake news. And that needs to be watched carefully, because to this day, you really have to do a lot of research on your own to find out what's true or not.
Okay. Ed, you want to tell us what you think about him?
If you study the history of the Electoral College, first off, it was put in place so that the southern states would have more juice in electing the president of the United States. And they made sure, that's when they went through with the 3/5 rule to get their representatives in place. That's how the whole concept of Electoral College, rather than have this thing where it was majority vote. They didn't want a majority vote because it was not the majority. That's why Electoral College in play in the first place. What Trump represents, as Abubak said, is the worst that America has to offer. But it's the truth of America. Study every president that's ever been elected in this country and look at either their slave ownership or what comments they've made. Woodrow Wilson, his comment, he the one that segregated the federal government. So just study history of all the presidents. He falls in line with American democracy as far as when it relates to African Americans in this country. He's no different than the rest of them. The difference is we have social media and we have TV, and so now everybody can be exposed overnight or in 10 seconds once something happens. That was not the case 40 years ago or 25 years ago.
Okay. Warren, you want to chime in on that? You're on mute, Warren.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, wow, I won't go into all of my true feelings because
you retired. What the hell does it matter? You can say whatever you want.
Listen, you know what? And I mean, I'm almost positive we have a few Republicans online, and so I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I am no fan of this president. He is certainly someone that I've known for some years, being from New Jersey and being around Atlantic City, watching him operate. So I've just, he's always been a phony individual, and that's all I see now. He doesn't understand what truth means. His path was always laid for him with his father's money, because I really don't think he's a very smart businessman. And, initially he said he would run this country like a business. Well, if I look at all of his businesses, he's run them into the ground, done nothing but take money from people. And if you understand where this nation is at this point, we've taken several steps backwards from where we used to be. Progress for African Americans has already been difficult. And so to feel those, the few positive steps that we have made being pushed back by this guy, it's something I'm just tired of. And, I'm still not sure we're going to be able to get him out of there, simply because he never plays a fair game. And so I've thought he was a Russian asset for most of his presidency, and I'm still of that belief. So not once has he denounced any of the interference that Putin or anybody else has made on his behalf, and that should have been enough right there for Congress to get rid of him under I don't know. I think he's committed treason when he asked Russia to look into this and look into that. And so, I'm no fan of his whatsoever. I'd be happy to see him out of here and at least let us return to a somewhat normal democracy where the word of the people counts, law and order is in order, and everybody once again begins to follow it. But I think I better stop right now, because if I get on the bicycle, we don't know where we're going. So,
All right, Eric, you want to chime in on that? You joined a little late, so the question was, what do you think about Donald Trump? We can't hear you, Eric. It's unmuted, but for some reason we just couldn't hear you. No.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. So I think just like history has shown, Donald Trump is the response to the backlash of any social progress that takes place in this country in regard to what are deemed minorities. If Barack Obama hadn't occurred, there wouldn't be a Donald Trump. I think he actually speaks to the very worst of our fellow Americans and how many of them are really ingrained and indoctrinated to the American machismo and the American arrogance that I think all of us who have been stationed overseas tried to avoid when we were among local nationals or within other countries and we were the guests. So I think it shouldn't have been a really surprise to me, because I think history has shown anytime there's been social progress, there's a direct backlash. And that backlash seeks to maintain the status quo and the control. And I think just like I think it was Warren that said, his business so-called accolades cannot be anything that anyone should be touting as a success that would carry over into a success of the country, because the record shows that he's not a good businessman and he's not a good human. He also speaks to the very hypocrisies that this country has always had. We're a nation that does not have a national religion, but we're founded on Christian values, and he epitomizes nothing of the sort. As like many of the early founders, as well as other presidents, I think Woodrow Wilson's name was brought up as well. So I think our nation is overdue a reckoning, because we tout ourselves as the ideal and the light and the beacon on the hill, and which it is on paper, but in application and actuality, we've never been. He's the epitome of that.
Okay. Richard, I know you're joining late. I don't know if you want to chime in on this first question. I'll give you an opportunity to. But the question was, what do you think about Donald Trump? Unmute your microphone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, where do you even start? I think that he's, I don't know. I feel like whatever I say, it's just this redundant, ridiculous comments on everything we all know. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's a charlatan. He is a bad businessman. He is, obviously silver spoon. He has no sense of morality. I actually think he is actually amoral. I don't think that he has any sense of morality. He's a narcissist. He's just a terrible human. And basically, I think it is because of he has no ability for empathy or sympathy. And he basically is absolutely antithetical to anybody that should be president. He has all of the exact opposite qualities of someone who should be president. And
you know what's interesting, to piggyback on basically what everybody said, I think if you remember when Kennedy was shot, they asked Malcolm X, hey, what do you think about the assassination of Kennedy? And he said, well, the chickens have come home to roost. I think when you look at, I'm not sure if it was Eric or Ed or somebody said, but if there was no Barack Obama, there might not have been a Donald Trump. And in my opinion, he's the puppet master. Very seldom is someone like Donald Trump the puppet. So not saying that he's a puppet, but he's the one in front of the curtain, as opposed to being the one who's normally pulling the strings behind the curtain. And from a way that he speaks, his vernacular, everything. I'm used to it because I deal with a lot of companies. So I see a lot of people and they write a certain way and do a certain thing. We try and make sure that we speak a certain way. We have the correct grammar. The emails are constructed a certain way. As you make your way up the food chain, that's just simply not the case. And I think from his perspective, he's used to being the person that doesn't need to have any morals, doesn't need to care about anything. And now he's the one in front of the curtain, and we're just not accustomed to that. We're accustomed to somebody being a little more polished, like a Mike Pence, and not the person just screaming, yelling, and saying wild things in front of the microphone. But that being said, I'll go on to the next one. Jasmine, there are certain questions, like I said, I'm just not going to ask you. Go on to the next question is.
What happened to Stephanie?
Oh, you want to say something, Stephanie? Okay, I'll let you say something. Go ahead. Go ahead. What do you think?
I don't have an opinion.
Say that again.
I don't have an opinion.
You have an opinion, but go ahead. I'll let you say something. I was gonna try and get people outside to submit questions, but go ahead. I want to hear your opinion. Go ahead.
What I think about Donald Trump is that in actuality, I'm a believer. So
a believer in Trump?
No, a believer.
No,
a good question. Yeah, that's good. You clarified that. Let me clarify. I mean that you said that. So let me clarify. No, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. So so everything that I'm learning to do is to put in as using Jesus as a yardstick or a measuring stick, I should say. And so it's like the thing about a leader being a servant, setting an example. Trump is none of that because he does not have empathy for the people. He doesn't have compassion for people. He doesn't. He's in a bubble where he just sits on his, and I don't fault him for that. Everybody wasn't able to be born with the silver spoon in their mouth. So that he was, then it just puts him in a place where he does not relate to people. He's not relatable to us because he hasn't lived it. He hasn't experienced it. So he has no knowledge about it. He may have a little knowledge, but he has no knowledge to the sense of being, wanting to really be involved, to know what can I do? How can I help? How can I assist? How can I pull you up? So I just, in my church right now, in our Bible studies, we're just taking the times, the political climate, we're taking the political unrest. I mean, like Black Lives and all that's been happening, and the police killings and even the pandemic, and we're trying to put all that in relations to our faith. So when you put your faith first, and when you look at when you study about the God and how God will use the enemy in order to get his people in line, and when you and things like that, then it just helps you kind of look at it. So I believe that Trump, though I don't like his ways, I don't like his personality, I don't know how his politics, how he deals with things, he is who he is. And he is a person that, like the children of Israel, they didn't want to listen to God, so they wanted a king like the other nations. So this is the king you guys voted for. So this is who you got. So you got to deal with it.
Not to speak over you, but I think I do plan on doing something about religion and the effect religion has had on the Black community. I know a lot of people, and I know no one needs to chime in on this, but I know a lot of people feel that part of the reason that Black people or the Black community is in the condition that it's in today is because of religion, and because we've put so much faith into things that we should not have been putting our faith into. I don't know that this is the discussion for that, but I get your points about what you guys have been doing and how you view that basically he's come along because of people need to wake up. But what I wanted to do, so that we didn't spend too much time on that, I'm gonna go to actually the second question.